I, who 29, female, was pretty much disowned by my entire family when I came out at 18. My parents gave me 5 minutes to grab my things before shutting me outside. It honestly felt like a bad dream. I remember watching my mom set the kitchen timer before telling me to hurry up. I couldn't stand using any sort of countdown timer for a long time after that. I remember telling them there was no way I could live alone, that I was their kid, and they should want to love and support me. My father told me that I made this bed by choosing my lifestyle, so I should grow up and learn to live in it. I turned out pretty okay. I was able to go on to college on a few scholarships and not too many loans. I met my wife during my freshman year, and I've been with her ever since. We have a toddler daughter who's the most precious little person in the world. We bought a house, and we both have decent paying jobs. I consider myself incredibly lucky, and I can't imagine my life without my wife and our daughter. I don't keep in touch with my bio family, so I don't know how my parents got my contact info, but they did. My mom sent me a message detailing the financial issues they were going through. They had to sell the house I grew up in, and they moved to some apartments. At the end of the message, my mom asked if I'd be willing to help them out a little by letting them stay with me. I didn't respond to the message. I just planned on pretending like I never saw it, but then I got a call the other day, and as soon as I answered it, I realized my dad was on the other line. He told me the same thing my mom did and that they needed help. I said, "That really sucks. I hope you figure it out." He then flat out asked if I was seriously not going to provide them with any assistance. I asked why he wanted my help, and he told me that I should want to support my parents the way they supported me growing up. I replied saying that maybe if their support of me hadn't ended the moment I told them I was a lesbian, I'd be willing to help them, but unfortunately, they made their bed themselves, so they could lay in it too. I hung up on him, and later he left a voicemail calling me selfish and cruel for using their financial struggles to prove a point. Maybe it is cruel. I don't know. Am I the idiot? Normally, I take the route of temperance and advocate taking the high ground, but not this time. Big not the idiot. If they let bigotry abandon their daughter, they no longer deserve to have a daughter. They don't get to pick you back up as their child when they need help. They made it clear that you were on your own, so that works both ways. Yeah, I was gonna say this. They disowned you, OP, and didn't bother to try to reconcile until they needed your help. Well, too flipping bad. They did indeed make this bed with their own crappy lifestyle choices, and they can lay in it. Han, you feel guilty because you have a heart. They don't. Right? What about an 18-year-old OP's struggles to live after being thrown out with whatever she could grab in 5 minutes? I remember watching my mom set the kitchen timer before telling me to hurry up. My goodness, what awful, awful people. They didn't even reach out when she married and had their grandchild, but now that they need money, OP's suddenly good enough? They really deserve to rot in the bad place. Don't feel guilty. Your parents were legally obligated to support you to 18. The second that legal obligation was done and you did something they didn't like, they threw you out. Your parents are not entitled to anything for supporting you growing up because that was their legal and moral obligation. If they bug you about it again, just ask why they want to partake in your sinful lifestyle. Surely living with 2 lesbians who are married is not just condoning such a lifestyle, but actively encouraging and benefiting from it. And all those lesbian meals, the horror. OP, do you think they'll respect your home and your family? I doubt it. More likely, once moved in, they'll try to take charge and set their own rules because they're your parents and they don't see your marriage and family as real. Just send them some links to resources like soup kitchens and food pantries and such, and it would be more than they did for you. Update, thank you all for this. It makes me feel better knowing that I'm protecting my family from their hatred. If I can make a perfect world and keep my kid away from bigots forever, I would. Also, when I told my partner that I felt a little guilty about my parents, she told me I was 100% allowed to get a kick out of that poetic justice, lol. So I sent my mom an email with links to soup kitchens, food pantries, housing assistance, etc., and then I blocked both her and my dad. I might change my number if they try calling again, but I'm gonna leave it as it is for the time being. I don't know if my wife's trying to play some Pokemon Gotta Catch Them All for TV subscriptions, but she's subscribed to over 15 TV services that cost monthly bills without even letting me know beforehand. I found out while checking my account today. She looked through my work bag for my credit card to get the subscriptions without my knowledge. I asked her why she needed all these subscriptions, and she said having more variety is nice. I was really upset she decided to go behind my back and purchase all these things. So I canceled the subscriptions and told her she could watch free stuff instead and learn to ask me next time before spending my money. She threw a tantrum and called me a jerk, but it's my money. It is singularly in my account, not joint. My wife does no housework. We have a maid and no children. I'm not controlling her money. She has none because she decided to quit her job despite my wishes 2 months into the marriage. So am I the idiot for canceling my wife's TV subscriptions? Edit, divorce is not feasible in our cultural environment. Well, it sounds like you guys will not be able to make your marriage work and should divorce, but if divorce is impossible, I guess trying to stay out of each other's way is the best you can do. I wouldn't pay for 15 subscriptions either. Not the idiot. She does seem to be the entitled stay-at-home wife without any responsibility. You are the idiot. You don't punish her like a child. You should each have your own spending money so that you can spend without consulting the other. Then if she wants to spend that on TV subscriptions, she can. You don't get all the say over the finances. You're both part of the marriage. If you stay together because you can't divorce, try getting to know one another and asking what she wants. I doubt she watches 16 hours of TV every day. How's anyone here saying he's even slightly an idiot? She stole his credit card. She quit her job after he was trapped to be lazy and feed off of his income. He has every right to tell her she needs to ask before purchasing completely unnecessary things if it's his money. Most of the people here saying he's an idiot sound like the ones living in mommy's basement for free. The crux of the problem isn't her being subscribed to 15 things. It's stealing your credit card and going behind your back to waste money on wants, not needs, while refusing to get her own job. Maybe involve her family since all parties would be negatively affected by divorce and separation. It takes two to tango. You two have to be able to work together to get through this lifetime. If you can't resolve it between yourselves, get help. I hope things get easier. My nearly adult daughter, Kim, is going through a hard time with her mental health. It's gotten to a point where Kim refuses to go to school almost every day. In January, she went to school for 4 days total. We've been working with the school to allow Kim to get homework digitally, but she doesn't keep up with it. My wife and I got her into therapy and counseling through her school last fall, but the results of that have been mixed as I don't think Kim is putting in the necessary work on her end. She's on medication, but we're still working with her doctor to find the right combination to meet her needs. If Kim had her way, she'd just spend all day in bed with her laptop. She doesn't do anything to help around the house, doesn't work, doesn't go to school, doesn't eat meals with the family, and just sits in her room on her computer all day and night. We've tried so many different things and nothing has made any positive change. It's infuriating and heartbreaking at the same time. One constant throughout all of this has been her computer and her phone. She's on them constantly. No matter how many times we bring this up to her, that maybe she needs to spend less time in front of a screen, she insists that that isn't the cause of her problems. So finally, I decided to change our Wi-Fi password to one only my wife and I know. I change it every night before we go to sleep and wait to change it back to the one the kids know until we get home from work. Kim was unhappy and used up all of our family data plan in less than a week, so we had to change our plan to restrict her usage. At first, my wife was on board with this as she also felt Kim was spending too much time on her phone and computer, but after Kim basically threw a gigantic tantrum about it, my wife isn't so sure. Kim tried to argue that if we want her to do her schoolwork at home, she needs the internet, but she wasn't doing the work anyway, so that argument didn't really hold water for me. Instead, she tried saying that she needed the internet to access her support network. Still, we take her to therapy and counseling in person, and I feel if she puts more effort into those, then maybe she'll make some progress. Kim hates me for this and told me that restricting her internet access in this day and age is abuse. My wife is also wavering on this idea because Kim isn't showing any positive changes and still isn't going to school. Every single day is an emotional roller coaster for me. Anger, frustration, embarrassment, futility, failure, fear. I know Kim is struggling, and seeing your child go through something you can't fix is a heck I wouldn't wish on anybody. All I'm trying to do is gently force Kim to focus on her issues and take the steps necessary to address them and make progress toward being a functional adult. She has 3 acceptance letters to colleges that she's very unlikely to attend now. Not the idiot, because this is an impossible situation, and I really feel for all of you. It's very possible that your daughter's support network is online. It's also very possible that this is toxic and could be detrimental to her mental health. Without actually speaking to her, it's impossible to know. Seek professional support for yourself too. You'll need someone to support you as you navigate through this together. If you enable her, she may never shake it. She's old enough to know that this is the time for her to heal and get a handle on her issues. Letting her be a lump and facilitating it can rob her of her functional adulthood for life. She needs to learn that there won't always be mommy and daddy around to scrape her off the floor. What kind of diagnosis does she have? What medications have you tried? Have you asked her if she feels she has a good connection with her therapist? There are so many factors here. I have ADHD and didn't get diagnosed until my late 20s. I could spend all day staring at a screen, knowing I had schoolwork, but unable to force my brain to focus on it. Not because I'm lazy, not because I didn't want to, but simply because of a neurodevelopmental that results in my brain not processing certain neurochemicals correctly. Getting a diagnosis, medication, and a good therapist has helped, but sometimes it's still a struggle. Your daughter's screen time might be a symptom, not the cause of her problem. I have a baseball cap from my childhood that has a Barbie logo on it. It's black with the name Barbie in pink with a fancy foot. My son loves it. He's only a toddler and doesn't know what it says. He only likes it because we were looking through the basement at my parents' house and he came across the hat and a photo of me wearing it when I was younger. He got super excited when he saw the picture and has been in love with the hat ever since. He calls it the mama hat and everyone thinks it's cute. We were having dinner with my sister-in-law and her family. My sister-in-law has a preteen daughter who I love. She really likes Barbie and everything she owns is Barbie themed. I had a feeling that maybe it wouldn't be best for my son to wear the Barbie hat while we were there, but he really wanted to show his uncle, aka his best buddy, and my husband said it shouldn't be a big deal, so I allowed it. The night went pretty well, but I noticed my sister-in-law was a little quiet. Right before we left, she pulled me inside and asked if I could do her a big favor. She asked if I could sell her the Barbie hat. I asked her why she wanted the hat and she said her daughter's been eyeing it all night and asked for one. I told her to buy one online or something, but she said that she felt like that would be a waste. I said I was sorry, but I wasn't giving her the hat. She argued that my son is a boy and once he realizes it's Barbie themed, he'll throw it away anyway. I explained that she could ask for it again when the time comes and I'll think about it. I thought that was it, but she went to my son directly and started telling him how Barbie's for girls and that the hat is Barbie. He got upset because to him, it's not a Barbie hat, it's a mama hat. I was over it though and told her she wasn't getting it ever, that if he decides he doesn't want it anymore, it's going straight to the garbage or my mom's basement again. She got all frustrated and said that I was being ridiculous. She accused me of being a childish idiot and said that I just broke her daughter's heart. Am I the idiot? I'm starting to feel a little bad. I might be doing a little too much over a silly old hat. Not the idiot, but she is. She tried to manipulate a toddler so she could steal from him. No one would be talking to my kid about gender stereotypes and what they can and cannot like. I agree with you and wouldn't give her the hat even if your son doesn't want it. She was very out of line. Yep, trying to confuse a toddler into giving something up that he loves and making it about gender too. The poor little guy's probably never even heard of Barbie. He just loves the hat because it's his mom's. I just googled Barbie baseball cap and there are easily options out there. If this was really about your sister-in-law wanting a similar hat for her daughter, it's easy enough to get her own. She was asking you to break your son's heart and she's gonna accuse you of breaking her daughter's heart and she can just buy one online? Funny how a bully cannot take a no. Keep the mommy hat for later when it may become the daddy hat. I, 52 male, own a 3-bedroom home with my wife, 52. Currently, my son, 27, and his girlfriend, 26, are living with us for a short while with their 2 sons, both preschoolers. My wife helps watch the boys during the week so that they can both work. The boys are not yet in school and my living room has been replaced by the constant playing of CoComelon or SpongeBob. I love my grandsons, but they play loudly outside their rooms and leave toys all around. And as I said, I can't even sit in my living room and relax and watch something on TV of my choice. My wife and I had sat down with my son and his girlfriend. We requested that once a week on one of their days off, in the afternoon, if they could take the kids out for a day to the park or to the backyard or keep them in the kids' room and turn on a movie. We understand the difficulties of keeping young children quiet. We had 3 of them, but we didn't think asking for one afternoon a week was unreasonable. My son got upset and said we expected them to use one of their few days off to take the kids out instead of relaxing. They both work 5 days a week, so I told them I understand that they're tired, but they are their children. My son's girlfriend said that this was an outrageous request and asked why we allowed them to move in, knowing they have small, loud children. I don't think I'm asking for too much. Only one afternoon a week for my wife and me to enjoy our living room. Expecting them to look after their own children is an outrageous request? What? These people are entitled as heck. If this is how they respond to a simple request, I'd hate to think how they respond to you setting a hard boundary or, God forbid, going on holiday. Jesus, not the idiot. Do yourself and your wife a favor and set some hard boundaries. If they move out, that's on them. In which universe is it outrageous to ask parents to care for their kids for one afternoon without relying on the living room? OP, I would just give them 30 days. Tell them since your request was too much, you think they should get their own place with their own sitter so they can always have the kids home. I'm really feeling even worse for your grandchildren here than you. They never go anywhere. Your wife keeps them in the house all week and then their parents also keep them in the house on their days off. So they never get to go to any of the extremely normal and borderline necessary places that you mentioned, like the backyard. That doesn't sound. My name is Carla. My favorite boy band since high school just broken up. I'm 50 years old who watch the live DVD with nostalgia as I sip beer every night. You may ridicule me for my nostalgic nature, but I can't help it. I will be grateful if you could accept me the way I am. Today I would like to tell you a story from 5 years ago when my beloved boy band was still not disbanded. I was living a peaceful life with my husband Jason, who was same age as me, but then he suddenly started to pay more attention to his appearance. Isn't that a good thing? Yes, of course. That is if he was a regular guy. Jason had always been a very lazy, nerdy guy. He was a bit bitter before we got married. I wouldn't have had taken a super lazy man for a husband. No, but he was still a nerd. As far as I was concerned, I believed that men should be a little nerdy so that they wouldn't play around. Hence, I decided on Jason. When I was younger, I dated good-looking, stylish older guy who ended up cheating on me. I had learned to pick a man not by his look but by his personality. I know I'm totally biased. I stayed away from guys who were stylish, cultured with French cuisine and Italian wine, and thoughtful. This is how I chose my husband. I didn't mind that Jason gradually became more carefree and sloppier after our marriage as long as he was kind and treated me well. I didn't know what happened to a guy like that all of a sudden. He started wearing flat shirts and a pair of damaged jeans. Sometimes he wore a twisted scarf around his neck too. Let's leave aside the fact that his choices were unquestionably bad taste. T-shirts and high-rise jeans used to be his normal attires. If you had given him a suspender and a pair of glasses, he would have had looked like a guy from Family Matters. But he changed just like that. It was natural for me to wonder what happened. He even started to spend more than 10 minutes to style his hair in the mornings. He obsessed with covering his baldness. You don't have that much hair. If the wind blew, all your effort would be a waste. There is not much different anyway. Instead of telling him that, I commented, "You've been looking stylish lately." He happily replied, "Right?" He only said it was a change of his mood. The reason for the change was exactly what I wanted to find out. I knew something was up. I decided to let him carry on with his tasteless style for a month or so. He also became consumed on his computer. He couldn't even hear me asking what he wanted for dinner every night. "Hey, Han." "Hello." I tapped him on the shoulder. "What the?" "Don't touch me." I was so shocked when he shoved my hand away. Not sure if Jason thought he had gone too far, but he made an awkward face. "If you need me, just call out." He didn't hear me, so I tapped him on the shoulder. He locked his computer and walked out of the living room, leaving me in dismay. I thought he was on his computer for longer than usual those days. He was engrossed in screen even when he got home late or on his days off. I understood that he wasn't allowed to stay overtime, so he brought his work home, but it was absolutely strange to see all those changes. If he was working on his PC, I would have supposed he would plug in on USB, but there was no external device around. In short, he didn't seem to be working. Besides, he often looked too relaxed with a beer in his hand while on his computer. It was very odd. I could smell something foul. Just I was thinking about it lightheartedly. Crisis happened 3 days later. "I've been thinking. Why don't we separate?" Jason suggested improperly in front of a cake and champagne. It was my birthday. I assumed Jason had forgotten, so I prepared my own cake and champagne to celebrate myself. But what outrageous words had came out of his mouth. "You and I are both 45 this year. We've been together since our 20s. I suppose you've been thinking to live your own life too." Nope. I just wanted to live a leisurely retirement. That was all. I had never been awakened by such a thought. I think there are feelings for each other that can only be realized when you're alone. We've been awkward lately anyway. I may have thought that housework would be easier without a lazy husband, but you're the only one feeling awkward, you know. Besides, my mom is getting old. I'd rather live with her and look after her for her remaining life. I think it would be an opportunity for us to find a new relationship with each other. Jason seemed adamant with his proposal, as if to say it was such a great idea. He added, "I want you to think about it." I was flabbergasted with his life-changing suggestion that I couldn't make a word for a moment. I squeezed out, "Let me think about it." "Oh, my head hurts. This is the worst birthday ever." When I thought about staying in a loveless dysfunctional relationship, I honestly agreed with separation. I did care about Jason, even though he was bolding and was nerdy. But if he didn't feel the same way, then what choice did I have? Tie him to a chair and dangle the coin in front of him and hypnotize him to love me again? If that really worked, I would have resisted separation. How he said it sounded more like the end. That's why I asked for a time to think. He had been obviously tacky. Not tacky, but strange. He had become fashionably tacky and treated me as if I was something dirty. He was right. Our relationship turned awkward. I sensed one possibility from all, including him being glued to his computer for a long time. He definitely has another woman. If that was the case, instead of thinking about separation, I needed time to gather evidence. I wasn't just going over and over the issue. I was deliberately careful. I was actually coming up with an organized plan. I decided to look into his computer right after while he was at work. It was locked, but I knew what kind of password he used. I assumed it was his birthday. Sure enough, he really had set his birthday as a password. So easy. Too obvious. You guys be careful. If you set your birthday as a password, it would be easily unlocked. After effortless unlocking it, I looked at the data as if it were my own. The desktop was organized, and there was nothing work-related as expected. There had to be something to make him glued to the computer. I opened his mail and couldn't help but laugh out loud. A few days later, I extracted the data from his computer to USB and headed for his mother's house with my laptop. Hi, Carla. It's been a while. You're alone. Where's Jason? Never mind. Come inside. It had been 2 years since she lost her husband. She still felt lonely living without him. When she saw me, she gave me a bright smile. I entered the house as prompted. I've come to talk to you about something today. Oh, what's the matter? If I could be any help, I would. I told her what happened on my birthday and how weird Jason had been acting lately. After hearing everything, she said, that bastard. He met another woman. Not bothering to hide her disgust, she sat back on the sofa with her arms crossed. I think so. Please have a look at this. I plugged the USB into my laptop and showed her all the evidence I collected. Ha ha ha. This is ridiculous. Right? Now, here's my request. Will you help me cornering Jason? Of course. It's too upsetting to keep quiet. Do you have a plan? Should I call him over? Yes, I do. Let's call him over. I told her about my plan, which she agreed and called Jason. I want to talk to you about something. So come over to my house. I assumed he was no longer going to follow my invitation. Even if the two of us had a talk at home, I was skeptical that he was going to listen to the woman he despised. Unless I was agreeable to the point of let's separate, let's do it. I doubt that we could have had a proper conversation. Hence, I asked his mother to be in the middle. Without knowing anything, Jason came over asking, what's going on? Day by day, it took him longer and longer to style his hair. Even this morning, it took him almost an hour to be ready. Despite his effort, it was completely flattened and became shiny barcode hair. And yet, strangely enough, he was wearing his bangs in a fashionable way. Wait, it wasn't fashionable. He looked creepier that he swept his bangs to the side. Darn, it was really bad. He didn't notice that I was stirring up his hair. As soon as he saw me, Carla, you're here too. He said in surprise, hi. I said light-heartedly. I want to talk to you about something. So I consulted with your mother first. It's about our separation. Jason, you are so thoughtful. I can't believe you're willing to live with your old mother. It's getting hard for me to do the housework anyway. I will leave everything to you. You are such a devoted son. What? She was enjoying the situation a little too much that she was getting theatrical. Jason turned pale as if to say, I didn't mean that. Yeah, he wants to live with you and look after you from now on, instead of living with me, you know. That shows his strong determination to take care of everything in your life. Wait, no. His mother didn't let Jason's feeble denial go unnoticed. What? No? Were you planning to leave everything to the elderly and live a lazy life? His mother asked angrily. Jason mumbled, well, with shifty eyes. It's not that. You met another woman, right? Don't deny, because I already know everything. What? You knew? He looked astounded. Don't underestimate me. I have proof too. He was dismayed. No excuse if you already know. Yes, I want to start my life over with Linda. He confessed. What is it about Linda that you're so attracted to? She's the one you choose to leave me for. Tell me. At my harsh question, Jason hesitated for a moment and then answered. She accepts me for who I am. I see. And then? There's something sexy and very feminine about her. It's been a long time since I felt my heart pounding. She is quite assertive too. She gives me a hope that I can still feel this way at my age. Good for you. Anything else? What? Yeah. I'm not young anymore, but she says I'm good looking. She likes the way I dress and the way I look. I know it's fluttery, but it makes me happy. For many reasons, I couldn't hold back my laughter. But I tried my best to hold it in. A giggle escaped from his mother, but I spoke over it to hide from Jason. She likes your face? Huh? I'm embarrassed. It may be out of politeness, but she really gives me self-assurance. Like she's holding me in her arms. It's soothing. I see. I see. Where did you meet her? Well, she sent me an email by mistake. Oh, and have you taken her on a date? Not yet. She hasn't separated with her husband, so we decided to be patient. I see. By the way, have you heard of catfishing? Huh? The way you guys met was by email, right? Yes. Did you even check the sender's address? That was a spam mail from a dating site. Didn't she send you a URL to continue chatting with her? Weren't you told to register on the site and pay a monthly fee? Yes, but it was just that she needed to use the site to hide from her husband. Yep, that's the trick. No way. She sent me picture of her. Is this it? I showed him the picture of Linda I got from his mail, and a picture of Mary the first found on some blog. Those were the same pictures. Obviously, the dating site had taken the picture of Mary without her consent. As expected, the shady site ignored the law and did whatever it could to con people. Wait, Linda? No, Mary? What do you mean? I mean you were swindled by catfishing and paid the membership and the monthly fee. I never thought anyone would be tricked by such a site nowadays. You should have used the money to buy hair gloss products instead. I couldn't contain my laughter and burst out. No color? Jason's mother pretended to stop me but also laughed out loud. Jason, who had been mocked by the two women, looked inconceivable and kept mumbling. No way. She was ecstatic when I asked her to move in with me. Thank you, Jacob. I would love to someday. What kind of home cooking do you like? When I read out Linda's reply to Jason's suggestion, his eyes widened. She called you Jacob, not Jason. And she even passed over the subject of moving in together. It's the same for meeting up. She keeps dodging your questions to get you to pay more, right? You should have noticed, idiot. Hey. He was trembling. What was it? Sexy and assertive? Let's see. There were sultry pictures of her. Those were stolen from others as well. Her face wasn't even shown. Couldn't you tell that the body shape clearly didn't match? She looked more voluptuous than the pictures with her face. It was all just a bunch of little tricks that could have been noticed without looking in details. Thanks to people like Jason, who could be easily fooled, this kind of site still existed. I felt like I saw the darkness of the modern world. No. No way. Well, take it whichever way you like, truth or deception. What was it? A separation? Okay, let's not just separate but divorce. Sign this. I presented the signed divorce papers without hesitation. His face was already as white as a ghost, but turned even whiter. I apologize, he exclaimed. I've been out of my mind. I agree. I'm gonna break up. No, quit the site. Please forgive me for what I did. You really are crazy. I quickly responded, but he didn't give up. Wait, don't leave me alone. You're going to live with your mother, aren't you? I will be waiting for you with a messy house. You will have to do all the housework. His mother was more than happy to be on my side. She once said she always wanted to fix her son's laziness, but she didn't manage to do so. This is her chance to teach him in a hard way. I'm sure she would purposely make a mess and wait for him. No, no. You know, I'm not moving in with you, Mom. I was supposed to live with Linda. If you divorce me, I'll be all alone. Why don't you just live with your computer? Linda is in it anyway. Well, the real person is probably a man though. I'd heard that catfishing was often done by the same sex as they understand the feelings better. So I'm quite certain that Linda was a healthy male who worked for good money. I wish you a passionate life with your computer, my ex-husband. Jason's mother burst out laughing, and I was also hysterical. Jason crumbled down to the floor with a miserable look on his face. 2 days later, Jason signed the divorce papers mindlessly. He was depressed and looked as if his spirit has been drained. Because there was no adultery, I asked for the house and all the belongings instead of alimony. If he had been his usual self, he would never have given me anything. He was so spaced out that he didn't even hear my words. He just agreed to whatever I asked in a rapid succession. And I got what I wanted. Way to go. I even wanted to thank Linda, who was actually a man, for making him so bewildered. On the third day, I let him keep the computer, which has so many memories of Mr. Linda for him, and kicked him out of the house. He didn't have a place to stay, so he went back to his mother's. By coincidence, he can not only live with Mr. Linda but take care of his mother. Good for him. He should have thanked me for letting him keep the computer. Yes, right. 5 years have passed since then. I love Jason's mother like my own, so we still keep in touch. She told me that Jason became completely bold from the stress. Ironically, he seems to have a bright future ahead of him. Congratulations. Good for you. Apparently, the neighborhood kids called him Shiny. I laughed at the child's direct but innocent wickedness. Jason's mother, too. Hey, Shiny. Hurry up. Mocks him playfully in public, so the mother of the children thought it was okay to call him that as well. They greet him. Good morning, Mr. Shiny. It has unexpectedly become an official name for him. Of course, there is no sign of Mr. Shiny to remarry. Mr. Linda has become his last love. Well, I'm sorry for your loss. On the other hand, I'm working part-time as a cashier at a nearby supermarket. I was getting a little bored with my unstimulating life that I joined a senior circle. We have dinner, drinks, and karaoke competitions. I'm pleasantly surprised to know that I can make new friends even at my age. I'm enjoying my life every day. The other day, I had a luxurious karaoke contest with people who used to like the same boy band. We are able to share our good and bad times in the past. It's really nice to be surrounded by good friends. By the way, I'm a good singer. I've won every karaoke contest that I regularly make extra income. I win cash prizes every time. My life isn't like Great Expectations or Move Up the Career Ladder or Sail on the Open Sea. It's not a glamorous life, but it's a great second life. I learned from the bad example of my ex-husband that I will always take care of my hair. Yes, my late husband passed away when I was 4 months pregnant. It's been difficult without him, but my family did so much to support me. I moved in with them a month after. At the funeral, my older brother asked for a minute to talk and asked me if I wanted to go through with my pregnancy. I was shocked when I heard this, but even more shocked when he suggested that I make the right decision, not an emotional decision, and reconsider having my son. He gave many reasons, including that single widowed moms are considered too much baggage for so many men to date. I lost it on him and kicked him out. That was the last time we saw each other. My son is now 3 weeks old. The whole family met him and were happy to welcome him. My parents asked if I could let my brother meet my son, even for a few hours. I refused, but they said I was making a mistake by robbing my son of a future loving relationship with his uncle. They asked that I don't let my emotions dictate a decision that might have a lasting impact, but I said no. My extended family got involved and started pushing, especially after my brother started insisting, saying my husband was his dear friend and what I'm doing right now would make my husband upset if he saw it. Am I being bitter and selfish? Why does brother want to see the baggage now? Not the idiot OP. Every time he says how much of a dear friend he was, remind him of that talk from his dear friend's funeral. Heck, remind the whole family of it. If he keeps pulling this manipulative BS, tell him that if he had his way, there would be no nephew to meet, so he can go on pretending he got his way. Then tell the family the same thing, that the day you were burying your husband, your brother told you that you should bury your baby too. Until your brother sincerely apologizes and makes amends. And to be honest, I don't know that I would ever see my brother the same way again. He doesn't need to be in your son's life. Is anyone else bothered by the way people keep telling OP not to make emotional decisions? Tell your extended family that the discussion is closed and anyone who brings it up again will not be seeing your son for a long time. If and when you want your son to have a relationship with your brother, you will let him know. I'm assuming your brother also hasn't bothered to apologize, but still feels entitled to have a relationship with your son and has no problem emotionally manipulating you to get what he wants. Yeah, no, you're not the idiot here. It seems that the brother's heart was in the right place, but he went about it wrong. Think about it. Assuming it was a planned pregnancy and the death was sudden, checking to see if someone who planned a 2-parent household is up for now being a single parent is pretty awesome. That's a major change for someone, and checking on them to see if they're okay and up for being a single parent isn't something I often see in these situations. I fully agree with you. Bad wording, timing, and argumentation. OP, I don't think this is worth cutting your brother out of your life for good. He made an extremely insensitive comment, but he wasn't trying to be malicious. Sometimes people just remove the feeling from a tremendously emotional time like this and try to solve things logically without any emotion or feelings, which doesn't work. Are you out of your mind? His reasoning for her to terminate was about finding a new man. Where the heck is it about her own mental health and financial stability? Y'all would tell someone to forgive a family member that stabbed them if they said pretty please. I agree. He wasn't worried about her. If he was, he'd have said, single parenting is so hard, especially after a tragedy. Are you feeling okay with it? He didn't say any of that because he wasn't worried about her or the baby. He was worried about her dateability because all his concern reduced to whether she'd be sufficiently attractive to other men. We know this because it's what he said, and while that may be his form of caring, OP has every right to find it misogynistic and gross. Me thinks you're giving this dude way too much credit. My ex Thomas and I have been split for around 4 years. We have 2 kids together, twins, a boy and a girl. He remarried Sandy about 18 months ago, and she has 2 children pre-tween and tween. Our current custody agreement is I have the kids 2 weeks on 1 week off when they go to Thomas's. It's a private agreement we have as it works best with his job as he travels, so we make sure for that week he's home. Recently, I got a text from Sandy asking if I could come pick the kids up. She had plans and my ex had been held up at work. It wasn't a problem. I was on my way home from work so I could swing by and get them. I rang my ex to confirm that's what he wanted and said it's around $530. I'll keep them for the night. He said that was great and he would let Sandy know. When I got to their place, my kids opened the door and were packed and ready to go. The kids called out that I was there and they were leaving, and she yelled out a goodbye. Sandy came running out of the driveway waving her arms as I pulled out of the driveway. I stopped and asked what the problem was. She asked why I didn't take her kids. I said that wasn't what I agreed to and I would never agree to that. She replied, "Why not? I'm always babysitting your kids." I said that's something between you and Thomas, but my kids are my responsibility and I'm sorry, but I don't know your children well enough to take them back to my house and have them stay. I left and within 2 minutes, Thomas was on the phone begging me to go back and get Sandy's kids because she always watches ours. I said the same thing to him and hung up. I got the kids home and while they were having dinner, I asked how often Sandy watched them. My son said they don't normally see their dad till the weekend. Sometimes they see him in the morning, but Sandy's normally with them during the week. I left the kids to watch TV and rang Thomas back. He started cussing me out about Sandy's kids. I let him finish and asked why he thought it would be appropriate for a woman that those kids hardly know to look after them at my house. He said again, "Sandy watches our kids, so fair's fair. And I've also upset her kids as they were looking forward to the sleepover." I rang my sister to vent. She flipped it on me and said that I was taking my issues with Sandy and Thomas out on Sandy's kids. I don't have any issue with either of them, but I'm starting to feel like I was the idiot, but I made no promises to her kids. Not the idiot. That's just not how custody works. You aren't obligated to take care of your ex's stepkids. It's on your ex and his new wife to figure out babysitting for all the kids while in their care. It's his agreement with her that she takes care of your kids on his behalf. You have no part in fulfilling this agreement. Of course, they're free to find a sitter for his stepkids as well. LOL. Exactly. They agreed to that custody arrangement so that he can ensure maritime with the kids, but still couldn't be bothered. If the new wife considers that babysitting, perhaps they should stay with the mom and revisit child support. What's the point of them at dad's if he's just having someone else babysitting for most of the time? Just because her ex has dumped his parental responsibility onto her doesn't mean she can do the same. It's mind-blowing that he thinks that this is appropriate. It's also ridiculous that they told the kids they could go and not discuss it with you. Ex, wife, and sister are just plain wrong. Watching your kids is something nice to do if you want. There's no obligation at all. I think getting a custody agreement might be a good idea. My boyfriend and his friends like to play video games together. I have little to no interest in video games. The issue is that, for some reason, he and his friends think that them playing video games is the most interesting thing in the world. And you know how guys are into sports who will have their girlfriends come to watch their games. Of course he and his friends expect us, the women, to do the same. I'll admit that we tried it once. It was boring and a massive waste of time. None of us were interested in just sitting there watching them play games. But for some reason, the guys expected that somehow this counted as a group hangout and thought it was a great time. They started to make plans to do it again, and I stepped in and said, "Hey, you guys can play, but we aren't going to sit around watching you play video games." They didn't get why we didn't like it, because they like sitting around watching people play games and always watch streamers play. I said, if we're going to hang out as a group, we all need to be doing stuff together, interacting. They argued back that we could always join them in playing the games, and I just said that I know I have no interest in that. And a few of the other women chimed in to say so. Well, the guys are angry at me now, because to them I ruined game night, which to them was something that everyone could enjoy. I don't get why they just can't play games together without dragging bored girlfriends along for the ride. My instinct is that some of them were using it to pretend they were spending time with their girlfriends, so they don't get pegged as being crappy boyfriends. Not the idiot, you nailed it. The guys are thinking that if everyone's in the same room, it's a group activity and thus spending time together. It's not. It's them selfishly gaming while their partners stare at a screen. Get better boyfriends. I wonder if the women are expected to give them snacks and drinks and tidy up while the guys play their games. My ex used to do this. I have no idea why I put up with it. I guess my standards were just lower back then. Looking back, I'm amazed by how much time I spent bored out of my skull while he was blissfully uncaring because he was doing something fun for him, and that's all that mattered. Of course, that attitude was reflected in other aspects of our relationship as well. Your free time is valuable, and you can decide how to spend it. This story is dripping with misogyny, which I'm having a hard time ignoring, but still not the idiot. I'm a woman who plays video games, and I still have never understood why anyone would want to watch someone else play games. Twitch is the weirdest concept to me. No one has any reason to be upset with you. You must be right about the other boyfriends thinking they were getting credit for socializing. No one stops them from playing games. You just don't want to be a forced captive audience. None of the women liked it. End of story. I, 35, own my house outright, thanks to an inheritance from my grandparents. My partner, 34, hates their job, and we're thinking of them moving in with me once their lease is up. My partner asked if after they moved in, they could quit their job to reduce the amount of stress they were under. It would be easy for me to support both of us, especially without rent or a mortgage, allowing them to either find a different job or do something they enjoy. I do enjoy my work, so I'm happy to keep working. I told them sure, but they would have to do 40 hours of chores in exchange. I said if there were 1 or 2 chores they absolutely hated, I wouldn't mind taking care of those, but since we had no pets or children and have no plans on getting any, it should be easy for them to take care of the rest of the chores by themselves. That way we can both relax at the end of the day in a clean house. Besides, I honestly don't think there are even 40 hours of chores to do. I keep the house relatively clean by myself, and with a Roomba that runs daily, the only daily chore would be cooking and dishes. Laundry is once every week or 2 depending on how much we would make. Bathrooms would be once every 2 weeks, dusting once a week, taking out the trash once a week, etc. I pay a company to take care of the yard. The house isn't a mansion, and I'm able to get these chores done on my free days, so it should be more than easy to break up the chore list to 1 or 2 tasks a day, get everything done during the week, and still have plenty of time to relax the rest of the day. Of course, if they got a new job, I'd be happy to split things evenly. They threw a fit, saying I just wanted them to be my servant and that chores should be split equally. I normally agree, but if one person's hanging out all day and the other works, the person hanging out all day should do more house care so that the division of labor to run the home is more equal. I said if they didn't want to do the chores, we could keep them split, but they would have to keep working. I wouldn't pay for them. This upset them even more, and now they're giving me the cold shoulder. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. If your partner's just sitting around the house not working, what is she or he contributing to the relationship? When they said you just want me to be your servant, I hope you retorted. You just want to use me for my money. OP, don't do this. You don't want to support them. They want to be supported. They're going to become a leech as soon as they move in. Are they going to pay rent, utilities, half of taxes, insurance? That they balked at the idea of managing the house in return for free rent does not bode well. They seem to feel entitled to your money. Run while you can. This is what a stay-at-home partner does. The earning partner works 40 or more hours to support the family, and the stay-at-home partner does the housework. It's a division of labor. This is absolutely how this works. Otherwise, you're being taken advantage of. You share housework, but only you contribute financially. So, it's reasonable to refuse to support someone financially if they refuse to support you with housework, but this is a red flag. OP, don't move them in and reconsider this relationship because they're making it clear what they want in the future. My sister-in-law, nearly adult female, is pretty hard to deal with. She had hang-ups with my brother marrying a brown Arab woman like me, 27. She also insults my cooking, doesn't like anything I make, and claims that it's all terrible from a terrible cuisine. That's why we don't invite her often. Anyway, my husband invited all his family tonight, and I thought of pulling a prank on her. So, I cooked her one of our popular dishes, and we lied about it being an Eastern European dish. She loved it. She was all, "See? You see how better the European cuisine is? You all see how it tastes better? You should make more of this, and less of that garbage you make in your country." Then 20 minutes later, I told her the truth. First, she thought it was a joke, but then realized that she messed up and snapped at me for lying to her. Not honorable at all. It quickly turned from a joke into some kind of fight with her. Dad-in-law, husband, and all brothers-in-law found no issues with it, and even loved this prank. Mom-in-law, though, thought it was an idiot move from me to pull on a teenager, and agreed with leaving early. Maybe I'm an idiot. I need a third opinion. Not the idiot. You exposed her crappy racist behavior in a completely non-harmful way. She outed herself by behaving the way she did. And mother-in-law, using the "she's a teenager" defense, is stupid. She's legally an adult in 1 year or less. She's not going to change on her 18th birthday magically. She needs to be called out on nonsense like this, or she'll never change. Maybe explore with your husband, because mother-in-law reacted that way. Rather than good, she shouldn't have been saying that hateful stuff. So, I'm glad you taught her the lesson that I evidently didn't. But maybe we've now identified the tree that the apple didn't fall far from. Everyone's the idiot here. You embarrassed her by doing this at a family gathering with lots of people. In my experience, embarrassing people is rarely an effective way to teach them a lesson. And that goes double for teenagers. I worry that you may have only succeeded in increasing your sister-in-law's resentment of you. I wish I had a magic bullet solution for your sister-in-law's terrible rudeness. She's the main idiot in this situation. I think embarrassment in the same setting as the criticism is fair. Sister-in-law has criticized the cuisine in front of the family. So, OP and hubby decreased her visits. Serving her some good food with another label proved that it was the label, not the food. This is not serving an allergen to prove she's making it up, or serving only meat dishes when a vegan visits. I think the point was pretty clear. Her parents could have shut her down at any previous point and chose not to, but OP had to take action. I married my husband 7 years ago. At the time, his sister was the only one with kids, and it was made clear to me that I was not an aunt, and I was made to feel like a stranger to sister-in-law's children by her own choice. She even taught her children that I'm not an aunt. So, as a result of this, I'm not close to them like I am to my husband's other siblings' children, who are my nieces and nephews, and I'm their aunt. I believe I'm a fun and generous aunt. I spend time with my nieces and nephews. I've painted stuff in their rooms as gifts because I'm artsy. Sometimes I'll take them for fun little trips or buy them stuff. Even as a mom now, I like to do that because I love those kids, and I never had a family, so it's nice to have people who want me. I don't do any of this with sister-in-law's kids. I don't even try to speak to them anymore when I'm at the same place as them because sister-in-law has made such a big deal. It seemed like I was supposed to ignore them, so I wasn't going to start drama or cause trouble for them by interacting because I'm almost certain she told them not to talk to me. Now our kids are jealous and hurt that their cousins have cool paintings in their room or get to do XYZ, and they don't. She came to me, reamed me out about it, and told me I was an idiot for making her kids feel that way. I told her that was her fault, not mine, that she set the tone. She made it so I didn't relate to her kids, and thus her kids' hurt was her fault. I told her she reaped what she sowed, and her poor kids are the biggest victims of all. Of course she's angry, and now she's all like, see, she's a bad person, and this is why I didn't want my kids to think of her as their aunt. The rest of the family are just rolling their eyes, but I know this didn't help. I also know it doesn't fix anything with her kids, who I do feel bad for. Am I the idiot? I feel guilty about making things potentially worse than all of this. she doesn't consider me related to her kids because I'm not her or her husband's sister, aka no blood or adoption relationship. Not the idiot, and the family's rolling their eyes at this lady's BS. If anyone said anything, I would go over the malicious compliance. I'd never undermine the decision of another mother, and when I was asked to step back from being an auntie, those 7 or so years ago, it hurt. But I listened. I'm sorry that things are this way, but I had to respect her as a parent. I didn't draw the lines. When she complained to OP should have said, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" But I wonder if sister-in-law was the only daughter between the siblings, and OP being the first other woman of their generation to marry into the family, triggered her. As time passed and the other brothers got married and had children, she became less aggressive, but the damage was already done. The only reason sister-in-law regrets it is that OP turned out to be a fabulous auntie to other children, and sister-in-law's mad her own plan worked too well. Actions meet consequences. OP, you followed her instructions not to be their aunt. It sounds like the rest of the family knows she's a moron too. Everybody here sucks. You probably aren't telling the whole story about what BS is going on between you and your sister-in-law, but it's awful of both of you to put the kids in the crossfire. And what about your husband? Does he ignore his niece and nephew as well? Why is he supporting either of you acting this way? I couldn't disagree more. The sister-in-law is the parent who made a choice to exclude OP, and is now the one creating the crossfire because OP respected the boundary sister-in-law put around your kids. Are you suggesting OP should have stomped on that boundary? I understand your empathy for her kids. Unfortunately, they get the short end of the stick because of their mom's behavior. But before you try to change anything with them, just first consider how your sister-in-law will respond. She may try to make any contact you have with them into something negative. Just know that as you decide what to do next. This happened 2 months ago, but he's still furious over it. I'm a 45-year-old female. I love my oldest son, but he's nearly an adult and acts like it. Our family rotates chores. Cooking, cleaning, dishes, and cleaning common areas are done by each family member on different days. Unfortunately, my son hates chores and always tries to half-idiot it to get out of doing it. It's been a constant battle. Dishes are the worst. He overpacks the dishwasher so the dish detergent can't get on the dishes. It just catches on whatever pan he shoved in first. He also doesn't rinse the dishes, so they come out dirty and caked in food. If we want to eat the day after he does dishes, we end up having to hand wash them. He doesn't care. Any attempt to talk to him is met with a little smirk, and he would say, "But the dishwasher sanitized it." He knows exactly what he's doing. The day after his night to do dishes, I went to cook dinner. All the dishes were in the washer still, filthy. I had worked all day, and I was exhausted. I honestly teared up seeing this BS. I didn't have the energy to make dinner, let alone do an entire load of dishes first. So, I quietly called hubby in, and he offered to hand wash the needed dishes. Lightbulb moment. I told him yes, please, but only do enough dishes for preparing the food and serving everyone but teen son. So, I made dinner and called the kiddos to eat. Son sat down and saw his setting was empty. He asked where his plate and silverware and water cup were. I pointed to the dishwasher and said, "Tonight you'll be eating off the dishes you did. Go pick them out." He went pale and started protesting that it was gross. I quickly cut him off and reminded him that the dishwasher sanitized them. Hubby backed me up. If he wants to eat tonight, he'll eat off his dishes. He huffed and said he'd wash some, and I said, "Nope, you had your chance to get them clean last night. Eat off them as they are or don't eat tonight." He yelled and said he'd make his food, but I said no. Eventually, he relented, found the least disgusting dishes, and ate his dinner quietly. I felt bad he looked so sick and disgusted, but I was sick of him wasting time and water and detergent, and it worked. His dishes came out spotless after, not a speck. But like I said, he's still furious, and I do feel bad now that it's over and done with. I'm just sick of the weaponized incompetence. He doesn't realize his laziness screws over everyone else in the house. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and I think you handled this beautifully. However, I disagree with you on the following. He doesn't realize that his laziness screws over everyone else in the house. He knows he doesn't care. He knows and doesn't care. OP, you probably should have done this long ago. If he doesn't experience consequences, he's not going to grow up and be less selfish, and he's at an age where this will not be typical or understandable behavior very soon. Agreed. The fact that OP and her husband have gotten into the habit of cleaning the dishes after their son failed to clean them properly means he was never learning his lesson. Instead, he learned that even when I do something wrong, my parents will have to fix my mistake because they have to eat as well. What OP did was brilliant because he's nearly an adult, and it's time to learn how to do things correctly. The fact that he's somehow figured out how to do dishes correctly overnight shows he knows how to do them but was being purposefully obtuse about it. Good job, OP. I grew up poor but worked harder than anyone I knew to become financially, personally, and professionally successful. My family was so poor that picking between bus fare and a meal wasn't uncommon. So, when I started making a lot of money, a lot of people started to come at me with their hands out. I helped them out of compassion and empathy. Someone giving something so small to someone who has nothing can make a difference. I know because I've been on the other side. Every person I helped tried turning me into a personal ATM. I never had that issue with people who had money. That'd be embarrassing to them. I do not spoil my kids, but yes, we live in a nice house, in a nice neighborhood, etc., and I expect my kids to work and get good grades. My eldest son is a teen and got into trouble for telling a peer that he doesn't want to be his friend because he's poor. A teacher overheard and lost her crap. Unlike that dingbat dinosaur teacher, I got the context and facts before reacting. My son started to hang out with Austin. Austin would always complain that he had no money to do stuff, so my son would spot him. For example, a group went to see Top Gun and Austin had no money, so my son paid for his movie ticket. Things started to get awkward when Austin started to expect my son to pay for his crap. The breaking point was when their friends went to IHOP and Austin ordered a bunch of food. When they were figuring out who owed what on the bill, Austin casually said, "My son would pay for his meal too." My son just had onion rings, and this kid had a meal, dessert, and a milkshake. Later, my son complained to their friends about how I barely give him any money, and he has to work as a grade school tutor, only for Austin to pull these idiot moves on him. As a result, they all stopped talking to or associating with Austin. Flash forward a couple of weeks in class. Austin asked him why he's not being invited to do stuff. My son said because he's tired of paying for his crap. Austin said I'm poor. A teen's idea of poor has last year's iPhone. My son sarcastically said, "Well then I don't want to be friends with poor people and get a job like him." This led to a call from the teacher. I explained the context of the conversation to the teacher because she wasn't listening to my son when he tried to explain it. She said my son was mean and would be assigned detention. I told her that I was going to tell my son he doesn't have to serve detention over this, and what was she going to do about it? She said nothing and dropped it. Edit. Austin is not impoverished and living under the freeway in a tent. He can get a job like my son and other kids at their school, but he chooses not to. Not the idiot. Go to the head teacher and explain how much your son has been emotionally blackmailed into handing over money and that the last time that transactions were essentially that he ate something he couldn't pay for and had no consent to do so. And your son was forced to pay. Say school needs to teach pupils to stand up to emotional abuse, manipulation, and bullying. And your son has a right to stand up for himself and end the relationship. And that this teacher should have listened to the full story. Everyone's the idiot here. Your son probably deserves detention for having that outburst. And you shouldn't be interfering with the teacher's discipline unless something is really wrong with how she's handling things. I think you need to help your son work on his delivery, or else you'll be dealing with more than detention one day. I agree. There's nothing wrong with Opie's son standing up for himself, but the wording was unkind. What would have been just as effective and more accurate would have been to say something like, I don't want to be friends with someone who takes advantage of me because that's the problem. Not that Austin's poor for telling an entitled idiot to get bent and use his own money. Yeah, he's going to run into so much trouble. It wasn't a bad delivery. Given the context, it was a sarcastic answer to someone using excuses for his bad behavior. The teacher didn't want to know what happened and took a poorly worded phrase out of context as enough to make a point. I know it sounds strange and I don't think I'm the idiot, but I need other people's opinions on this. My spoiled high school dropout brother married his wife, same qualifications, this year. They're both 19. I'm 23, by the way. Long story short, my brother's hag of a mother-in-law wants a grandkid as soon as possible. So, she manipulated them into getting married and my stupid mother went along with it. My new sister-in-law is expecting now, so I'm pretty sure my theory is correct. No, I don't care that I'm being disrespectful. We're not well off, not at all. My father suddenly became a coward and didn't talk my brother and mother out of it. He talked me out of the college I wanted to attend though, because of the tuition fees back in the day. To pay for the wedding, my father has gotten a loan from my uncle, his brother, and he now wants the money back. My parents sat me down a few days ago and told me that they have no money to spare, too much debt to get a loan from an actual bank. And since my brother and sister-in-law are so young and expecting, they can't pay back my uncle either. That leaves only me. Apparently, because I don't have debt, no babies coming anytime soon. But since I have savings and a job, I owe it to my family to take out a loan and hand it to my uncle. I didn't say a word, just laughed in their faces and left. I've been receiving a bunch of texts and calls from my family to save them financially, but I won't. I don't know. Either I live in a different reality or they do. No, it's not like a cultural thing or anything. So, am I the idiot for refusing to take out a loan for my family? Not the idiot. Dear Lord, this is a mess. If no one can afford to pay for this wedding, what will they do about the baby? Other than keep coming to you for loans they'll never pay back. Hold firm, this is not your problem to solve and refuse to discuss it further. If you have to take out a substantial loan to throw a lavish wedding, you do not have the money for that type of wedding. So, maybe, just maybe, any money they have should be going to this baby instead. Laughing in their faces is the correct response to such an absurd question. But OP, please tell me that you're the only person who has access to your savings, that it's locked down and they can't borrow or steal it from you. Update your passwords and don't stay logged into online banking on computers. Yes, please do this. Your parents indeed have or can quickly get your SSN, date of birth, past addresses, and employment history, which is probably all they need to open credit in your name. This was a crazy request from your parents, and even if you think they'd never actually steal from you, even if they believe that themselves, being broke and people do strange things. Exactly. If they know your SSN, they can likely take out credit in your name and then you'll be screwed because they won't pay it back and you won't even know. Pretty sure it takes like 10 minutes. You call the big reporting agencies, I think it's 3 big ones, and they lock it or go online. Easy process to reverse too once you're ready to use it to get a home, school, car, or whatever. Their financial stupidity is not your responsibility. They should work out a payment plan for your uncle on their own. I, 35 male, grew up with my best friend and his wife, Amanda. She was always a friend of mine, but I've always been closer to her husband. Unfortunately, they moved out of town years ago and they've only come for funerals, weddings, and other family-related events. A few months ago, Amanda came to town to attend her sister-in-law's my best friend's sister bachelorette party. Her sister-in-law is a very nice and bubbly person, but she's always treated Amanda poorly out of jealousy or something. I don't know. Amanda wasn't too thrilled about the trip, but she had to come because she was one of the bridesmaids. So, I offered to pick her up from the airport and take her out for drinks afterward to help calm her nerves. Well, I was an idiot and I forgot to add it to my calendar. I scheduled a date with this girl that night, and that morning Amanda texted me and asked me if we were still on. I freaked out and apologized. I couldn't cancel the date because I had already paid for the show tickets. So, I got the sister-in-law's best friend to pick up Amanda and bring her to the hotel. 2 days later, I took Amanda out for drinks. She was feeling very down because her sister-in-law mistreated her at the bachelorette party and everyone else ignored her. I spent a few hours with her just drinking and chatting, and then I got a text from my girlfriend. She wanted me to come over to her apartment. So, I got a mutual friend to come to the bar and keep Amanda company. Then I left. After that, Amanda stopped talking to me. She won't reply to my text or social media messages. It's been 3 months and I finally asked my best friend about the deal with his wife. He gave me a litany of complaints Amanda had about me, like I forget her birthday all the time, she's not on Facebook, and I get B-Day reminders there. And the last straw was me forgetting to pick her up at the airport and ditching her at the bar. I told my friend that I'm very absent-minded and they should have known that already. I said Amanda is overly sensitive and she needs to stop holding grudges. I already apologized to her for everything. I don't know what more she wants. My best friend got angry and now he's not talking to me too. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. So, you ditched your friend twice and now wonder why she's not talking to you and you think she's too sensitive. You made plans with her and then dropped her twice to do something you'd rather be doing. You showed her by your actions that you don't value her as a friend. I would stop talking to you too. You treated Amanda poorly multiple times and she's finally had enough. You don't get to mistreat people and expect them to get over it. It's a major red flag that your first instinct isn't to apologize to Amanda but to say she's the problem. You messed up again and again, not her. Sorry, but dude, you are the idiot. You're making excuses. You grew up with them. So, that's years. Her birthday is the same day every year and you have a phone, right? Or a calendar. All of those can be used to mark her birthday. You ditched her twice in one trip while she was feeling down. Really? You don't see something wrong with that? Especially after you forgot her at the airport. Man,